Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Gurudev. All glories to the Samudra Vaishnavi devotees. And all glories to His Holiness Bhakti Prabhava SWAMI Maharaj Ki Jai. Maharaj is not new here, even though he's not very regular on our platform, but he's been here a couple times. And we will do a little bit of more introduction about his humble self after the class, by which time we might have had a few more devotees present. And so, Maharaj, if you wouldn't mind, we may put the verse on the screen and
Yes.
you may start speaking. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today we will speak on the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 6, Purusha Sukta confirmed, text 37. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naham Najuyam Yatitam Katir Vidu. Navamadeva Kimuta Paresura. Tanmayaya Moita Buddhaya Stvidam. Vinirmitam Chatma Samam Vishakmai. The word-for-word translation. Neither aham, I, nor yam, all you sons, yat, whose, ritam, factual, gatim, movements, vidu, do know, nor, vamadeva, Lord Shiva, kim, what, uta, else, appare, others, suraha, demigods, tat, by his, mayaya, by the illusory energy, mohita, bewildered, buddhaya, with such intelligence, tu, but, idam, this, vinirmitam, what is created, cha, also, atmasamam, by dint of one's personal ability, vishaksmai, observe. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Since neither Lord Shiva nor you nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory external energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability. Purport. We have many times mentioned the names of 12 selected authorities, Tvadasa Mahajan, of which Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva had the list as the first, second, and third in order of merit of those who know something of the Supreme Lord. Other demigods, semi-demigods, Gandharvas, Charanas, Vidyadharas. Human beings or asuras cannot possibly know fully about the potencies of the Absolute Lord, Sri Krishna. The demigods, semi-demigods, Gandharvas, etc., are all highly intelligent persons in the upper planets. The human beings are inhabitants of the intermediate planets, and asuras are inhabitants of the lower planets. All of them have their respective conceptions and estimations of the absolute truth, as does the scientist or empirical philosopher in human society. All such living entities are creatures of the material nature, and consequently they are bewildered by such wonderful display of the three modes of material nature. Such bewilderment is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 7:13, Tribir Gunamaya Paver Ebi Salam Idam Jagat. Every entity, beginning from Brahma down to the end, is individually bewildered by the three modes of material nature, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. Everyone thinks in terms of individual capacity, that this universe which is manifested before us is all in all. And so the scientist in the human society of the 20th century calculates the beginning and end of the universe in his own way. But what can the scientist know? Even Brahma himself was once bewildered, thinking himself the only one Brahma favored by the Lord, but later on, by the grace of the Lord, he came to know that there are innumerable more powerful Brahmas, as well in far bigger universes beyond this universe, and all of these universes combined together form Ekapat Vibhuti, or 1/4 of the manifestation of the Lord's creative energy. The other 3/4 of his energy are displayed in the spiritual world. And so what can a tiny scientist with a tiny brain know of the absolute personality of God at Lord Krishna? The Lord says, therefore, Moitam Nabijanati Mamibhya Param Afyam. Bewildered by such modes of material nature, they cannot understand that beyond this manifestation is a supreme person who is the absolute controller of everything. Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva know about the Lord to a considerable extent, and therefore one should follow the instructions of these great personalities, instead of being satisfied with a tiny brain and its playful discoveries such as spacecraft and similar products of science, as the mother is the only authority to identify the father of a child, so the mother Vedas presented by the recognized authority, such as Brahma, Narada, and Shiva, is the only authority to inform us about the absolute truth. I read the verse once again. Nayam Nachoyam Yatritam Gatim Vidu Navamadeva Kimuta Parisura Tanmaya Moita Buddhaya Stvidam Vinirmitam Satma Samam Vishaksmai. Since neither Lord Shiva nor you nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability. Om Jnana Timirandasya Chinanjana Slaka Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shikave Namah Sichitayamadopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swamrapakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shigo Shiyuda Pankalam Shigam Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shivshakam Vitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jatpate Gopesha Koprakanta Radhakanta Namaste Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwara Vrishabhani Sudhadevi Panamama Haripriya Pankha Kalpta Vishakti Pasana Vaivasha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavana Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhatale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Srinyavadi Paspacham Desaptam Srila Prabhupada Ki. The theme of this verse is that everyone is bewildered by the three modes of nature, and that and we can only perceive things in this world according to our capacity to perceive things. So in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in 15:16, Krishna says that there is the fallible and infallible living entities. In the next, in 17, he says, besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. So that means that he maintains all the living entities in the spiritual world or the material world. So the living entity is always conditioned either by the spiritual energy or the material energy. The spiritual energy, we have much more freedom. But in the material energy, this, due to the bewilderment of the three modes, we cannot understand that transcendental to these modes is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna in the Gita, he complains a few times about that. So 7:13 is mentioned in the purport here. Srila Prabhupada translates verse 13. Deluded by the three modes, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. That is 7:13. But then further, when we go to the 10th chapter of the Gita, in the beginning of the 10th chapter, it's text 2, I think. 2, yeah, text 2. Now me vidus ragana pava namarsam. Neither the host of demigods, nor the great sages, nor my original opulences. In every aspect, I'm the source of the demigods and sages. So here it says also the demigods and the sages, they cannot know me. But still, Krishna gives us the method to know him in Bhagavad Gita. He gives us the method to know him because in 7:13, which is the verse quoted by Srila Prabhupada in the purport, that then Krishna says after that, Deva yesiguna maya mama maidratya, mami vaye papantasante maya metam trantiti. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes, is very difficult to overcome. Dhiracha, very difficult. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So he says, surrender to him. Of course, the Bhagavad Gita, the whole entire Bhagavad Gita, teaches us how to surrender to the Supreme Lord. But in the 11th chapter of the Gita, verse 54, there Krishna says to Arjuna, you can know me as I am standing before you, that only by Ananya Bhakti, pure devotional service. In the purport of this verse 1154, so there in the purport is writing somewhere that one cannot even begin to understand Krishna if one does not take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. So that is the first necessity to understand Krishna, is to hear from a bona fide spiritual master. That then in the 18th chapter, of course, Krishna 1855, Bhakti amama vijanti avyasasmi tattva tatamam tatav tattva turatva vishite tat anantam. I can only be known by pure devotion service. But here in the verse, specifically, it is said we should follow the Mahajans and understand Krishna through the Mahajans, and the three most important purposes is Brahma, and that Shiva, Brahma, Shiva, Narada, and so on. And that, so we see that Brahma, and that's mentioned in the purport, once he went to see the Supreme Lord, that and he went to the abode of the Lord, and he wanted an audience with the Supreme Lord. But then when he wanted to speak him, then he was first asked, he told him, I want to speak the Supreme Lord. That but then he was asked, who should I announce? The servant asked, who should I announce? And Brahma said, it is, tell him Brahma has come to see him. So the Brahman, the servant came back a little later and asked, what Brahma? Which Brahma? So Brahma had the idea that he was the only Brahman. Yeah, but he said, tell the father of the four Kumaras, Brahma is here, the four-headed. And then the Lord invited him, and he got audience, saw Lord Krishna, and suddenly Krishna asked all the other Brahmas of all the other universes to come. And he saw Brahmas with 8 heads, 12 heads. He saw Brahmas with 1,000 heads, with 10,000 heads. Another Brahma with 100,000 heads, even Brahmas with millions of heads. And Brahma started to feel himself insignificant. I have only 4 heads. So it indicates that we are here in one of the smallest universes. So the Brahma felt himself completely insignificant. And then all these Brahmas came and gave a report, and Krishna said, okay, thank you for coming on my request. And so Brahma understood how insignificant he was. And it's mentioned in this purport, we can know these Mahajans, they know Krishna to a certain extent only. They cannot know him fully. But they have the greatest knowledge. But we, in this material world, because we don't have pure devotion, we have no spiritual vision. But we can get knowledge through the Guru Parampara from them and accept it as the absolute truth, as that is another point Srila Prabhupada makes. We should not speculate. The mother is the Vedas, and the mother can give information of the father. So the Vedas can only give us information of the Supreme Lord. Of course, Brahma was bewildered in many times, a few times. We know he's bewildering with his daughter, Vak, that he was bewildered by his own daughter and was running after it. But then he gave up that body, that mentality. We know also that Brahma, he was bewildered when he saw Krishna. He could not understand who Krishna was, and he tried to test him. But with all his intelligence, he could not understand Krishna's position. That is interesting. That shows that the way to get transcendental knowledge is not just by sense perception or by thinking, which is an activity of the brain. The brain is made of matter. With matter, you cannot understand transcendental subject matters unless just theoretical. That how to get knowledge to understand Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satyuktam vatsam pitavukam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantiti. If you serve me with a little love, Krishna says, dadami, I'm giving you. Buddhi yogam means realized transcendental knowledge. And that's not realized to the brain, it's realized to the soul. Dadami buddhi yogam tam, to the heart, where the soul is. That's our process. Realization is given by Krishna to the heart. 10:11, Krishna tells him how he does it. Tesham evanakampata mama jnana chamtama nasa jama bhavastu jnana tipana bhashvata. With the lamp of knowledge, I enter the heart of such a sincere devotee, and I burn away all this ignorance. Because the knowledge of our constitutional position, of our relationship with Krishna, is in the soul, is in ourselves, but it's covered over by these dark clouds of ignorance. But of course, Brahma also got knowledge to the heart. Teni Brahma Hridaya Adkavim Yantyatsurya. First verse of the Bhagavatam explains that very clearly, how that Brahma got the knowledge to the heart. So Krishna gave him in the beginning of creation also knowledge to the heart after doing tapa. But there is an issue for us, because Krishna says to get his knowledge, Tadami buddhi yuntam, he needs priti, purvakam, a little love. In our conditioned bewildered state, we don't know what love is, and we cannot give it. That's the problem, even not a little. So what's the process Krishna has organized? Tatvine partner paripastana sevya upadikshana titehyam jnana tatvadakshana. You take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, serve him with humility, ask questions, follow his instructions. So if we follow the instructions of the spiritual master and we please the spiritual master, Krishna accepted as a little love. As a little love. So Shiva, Brahma, he got also knowledge to the heart. Still, it is in the Bhagavad Gita, from the end up to Brahma, everyone is under the modes of material nature. And it is true, the demigods are prominently in goodness. Brahma is practically completely pure. But still, these modes, they are fighting with each other for prominence. And sometimes the lower modes come through. And then there is greater bewilderment. Because each of the modes is bewildering, but especially passion and ignorance is the great bewilderment. That Shiva is interesting. He's Lord Vishnu himself in contact with the material energy. And when he met Lord Vishnu, he asked Lord Vishnu, please, I want to see your beautiful female form as Moini Mukti. And he saw this beautiful form, and Bhavani, his consort, was just beside him, but he became completely captivated by the beautiful Moini Mukti and started to run after. We know the history from the Bhagavatam. How Lord Shiva became bewildered. And he became bewildered, and that was this was a great lesson for all sages, all those on the path of bhakti, who are serious. Be very careful with these lower modes of nature and with the illusory energy. Don't think you have transcended these modes at any stage. There's always danger unless we come to the pure devotional practice, to the pure devotional stage. Srila Prabhupada many times compares the scientist, the bewilderment of the scientist, as Dr. Frog, PhD Dr. Frog. He has a 10-feet well. And one day another frog comes and said, I've seen the great ocean. And Dr. Frog was thinking, oh, great ocean? Is there something greater than my well? And the other frog said, yes, sure. It's much bigger than your well. Or is it 12 feet long? No, bigger, 15 feet. Bigger, 20 feet. Bigger. And the frog was always getting bigger and bigger, expanding his lungs. And at the end, he burst. He left his body. So this is speculation doesn't help. That because these brains are made of matter. With matter, you cannot understand something transcendental. Because we are used to think within this world that, and everything in this world has a beginning and an end. That, but then Krishna is unborn. There's no reference in this material world of something which is unborn. Everything has a beginning and an end. So some say, yes, that the Bhagavatam and all these stories, it's illogical. But no, that Krishna is translogical, is beyond logic, because he created all the laws in this material nature. That and we can only think in terms of these laws, the laws on which to which this body is submitted. That Prabhupada writes and says in a lecture, scientists have no common sense. According to the dictionary, common sense is practical intelligence, something like that. So they say life comes from matter. At a certain time, consciousness develops from matter. That when Srila Prabhupada makes that point many times, that and he refers always to his disciple Bhakti's famous Swarup Damodar Maharaj, where the PhD in chemics, he challenged a Nobel Prize winner who made such theory that consciousness comes from matter at a certain moment. And he challenged the other doctor and said that if we give you the chemicals, can you create consciousness? And his reply was that we cannot do. So it's it's a check with a date in the future, but they will never be able to demonstrate that, because life comes from life, and this universe does not come from void, as they are claiming. That so we see that many sages, acharyas, they are different opinions. That so we can understand according to our capacity. Our acharyas may have different opinions, and they are sometimes, to us, they appear to be contradicting each other. How to deal with that? But one way to deal with this is they are both right, but they are looking from different perspectives on the same thing. Perspectives we are not able to grasp immediately. That's interesting. Yeah. So we have, even Lord Shiva is bewildered, and Lord Brahma. So everyone thinks in his own capacity within the modes. In another part of the Bhagavatam, it is said, we are like insects in an urumbura fruit. An urumbura fruit is a big fruit, like a big melon. And inside there is an insect. and cannot know anything what is outside the fruit. But so, like Krishna does not even not know his own powers, because they are increasing every moment. I remember always someone asked Bhakti Maharaj that can Krishna make Govardhan so heavy that he cannot lift it? Interesting question. He answered, yes, he can do it, and still he will lift it. So that is the nature, of the absolute truth. So the Vedas are the only authority without defects. We have all these defects. Srila Prabhupada, in the beginning of his Upanishad, in introduction, was a lecture he gave in London he gave in London when he came first time to London, and the audience were mostly Indians, and he spoke about the Vedas, about his 4 defects. But yes, the first is the senses. That what can we perceive? That we can see between ultraviolet and infrared, what's between. But there are colors beyond it, but we cannot see that. And we can hear between the subsonic and the supersonic. But the dogs are better hearers than us. They can hear also some supersonic sounds that they can hear. We cannot. So that's our defect. We think, I believe only what I can perceive with my senses. But is that reality? Can we see our mind? No, it still exists. There are so many living entities in this material world, even ghosts and so on. We cannot see with our senses, but still they are there. And interesting is that what's the power of our eyes to see? It's up to our capacity to see. That Prabhupada mentioned that many times. He said they want to see God, but do they have the eyes to see God? Are they that? So that is important. We cannot know the absolute truth by our sensual perception. We cannot know the Supreme Lord by logic, that by Anuman, that no, it can only be known by Sabda Brahman, transcendental sound vibration coming from the Vedas, the information coming down from these Mahajans. So by these Mahajans we find everywhere in the Bhagavatam. If we study Bhagavatam, we can know something of the absolute truth. So everyone in this universe is bewildered by the modes of nature. And the process to know Krishna is pure devotional service. And that's also a big problem for demigods. Because demigods Most of them are not pure devotees. They are in the mode of goodness, yes. Great personalities in the mode of goodness. But they have the desire to control material nature as servants of Krishna. That's good. But they have still a slight desire to control. And that makes them unqualified for pure bhakti. Therefore, when Brahma, with the demigods, went to the shore of the milk ocean at Svetadvip to come in contact with Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, who was far, far away in the milk ocean, trying to come in contact with him. Nobody could come in contact with him, only Brahma could. And there was a communication between Brahma and Kshirodakasaya Vishnu. Because Brahma, he was pure in his heart. Therefore, because many of these demigods took birth in Dwarka, in the Yadu dynasty, and they could not understand who Krishna was. Why is that? They saw Krishna as Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, the Antaryami, the super soul in everyone's heart, but they could not understand Krishna as Bhagavan. Of course, the Akrura, Vidura, they were pure devotees. And Vidura especially, well, Uddhav, he felt sorry for these yadus. He said, they are like a fish in the water. A fish cannot know what the moon is. It sees the moonshine, but cannot know what the moon is. So these yadus, they are living with Krishna, and they cannot not understand who Krishna is, Bhagavan, the source of all the creation. They cannot. So that is an important point. Everyone is bewildered. Now, another point is we see the world to our sense perception, to our mind. Mind means three modes of material nature. That if you have a traffic accident and there are 20 witnesses and you ask each of the witnesses to give a report, you will get 20 different reports of what really happened. Different. Everyone has a different view. That because we are all made of a different mixture of the modes, a unique mixture of the modes. So we have all fingerprints, which are unique. It's a unique mode of nature. And we are looking to these modes and we have a certain perception, and we think that's our perception, that's what happened. And everyone gives his opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, it's just a waste of time. Therefore, it's advised that we learn to see to the eyes of the acharyas. We learn to see through their instructions, and we see through their eyes. And then we get a different vision. That today, here in Radhadesh, this morning, I gave the lecture about the 10th canto, chapter 57, the pastime of the Shamantaka Arjuna. And our acharyas, they give their commentaries, and each commentator gives other subtle information about what's happening. It's amazing how they are each contributing to a deeper understanding of the pastime and a deeper understanding of the meaning for us, the spiritual techniques behind that. So that's the great gift we got from these Maharajas. By that, we can know something about Krishna, and gradually, as we know more about Krishna, our relationship becomes more meaningful, more deeper, and more relishable. And it is also mentioned in this verse, and then we can relish this ananda, this higher happiness. It is said even Brahma has not realized his happiness to the greatest extent. That was the greatest and most intense happiness is happiness of the gopis. So that's this Anandamoya. That's why we are here. Anandamoya Vyasat. We are meant for the enjoyment of this Ananda. If we learn the art of pure devotion, we go from Vijnanamoya to Anandamoya. Vijnanamoya is we do sadhana, we hear about Krishna. That we hear about Krishna. And then we transcend the modes. So that is what I could say on this verse, that very meaningful verse. Everyone is bewildered by the three modes. And yes, we need to take help from the Mahajans to transcend these modes and understand the absolute truth, Krishna. Thank you. Any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Maharaj, for such a beautiful description of Krishna and his bewildering energies. So we want to formally recognize the presence of His Grace Shivasvanachari in the house. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for being here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai. Jai Maharaj. Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your wonderful class.
I tried my best.
His Grace, do you have something to share? That after that, maybe other devotees may ask questions or comments, give comments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they have questions, they can go ahead and ask Maharaj.
All right, so dear devotees, if anyone has a question, comment, realizations, you may use the hand emoji, your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak or ask your question. Hare Krishna. Well, Maharaj, if I may ask a question, and that is, this energy of the Supreme Lord, this bewildering energy, is very, very difficult. The Lord himself says it. But Lord Brahma, supposedly the most intelligent person in our universe, who knows so much about the Supreme Lord, probably than anybody else, yet gets bewildered. He gets bewildered that he couldn't even recognize that this little boy playing with mud in his hand is his supreme worshipable Lord. Arjuna was also bewildered he didn't recognize that his cousin is the Supreme Lord. Even after Arjuna said it to the Supreme Lord, now my illusion is cleared, he still got bewildered at some point. So my question is, when we as insignificant devotees, after we've come to accept that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, when we get bewildered, how do we get away from this bewilderment and situate ourselves on the proper transcendental platform and serve Krishna and his devotees properly? How do we get rectified from such bewilderment? That's my question, Maharaj.
Well, I thank you. That's a very important question. That a devotee, I forgot his name, but he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, thank you. Without you, I would now be in Maya. Prabhupada looked at him and said, you are always in Maya. So that's our situation. We are always in the bewildering state that is in the material energy. But then Arjuna was bewildered. His bewilderment was a little different. He was a pure devotee. But Krishna, with his internal energy, not with his Maya, but with his spiritual energy, brought doubts in his mind so that he could ask the right questions on our behalf so that Krishna could speak Bhagavad Gita. So that was Krishna's arrangement. He's a special case. And then Brahma, what was the problem with Brahma? Why did he become bewildered? That he wanted to test Krishna. He was thinking himself, I'm going to test the Supreme. I'm going to understand him with my own brain. But that is not the humility that is required to understand Krishna. He is the most intelligent person, but he could not. Krishna bewildered him still. He could not understand him. But what's important is, yes, Arjuna said at the end, now my illusion is over. Does that mean that he's not anymore under the illusory energy? That he was a special case. He was never under the illusory energy, but it was Krishna's Yoga Maya. But in our case, can we follow in the footsteps of Arjuna? Yes, by setting our purpose of life right and understand our relationship with Krishna and engage in devotional service. So the purpose of life and our motivation for doing things. That is where someone asked Prabhupada, how many pure devotees are there in ISKCON? And Prabhupada replied, he asked his secretary, how many devotees are there now in ISKCON? They considered everyone pure devotees. Does that mean they were pure in heart? No. But they were pure in purpose. And Prabhupada, so there are two kinds of pure devotees. Those who are pure in heart and those who are purely engaged who are engaged in pure devotional service. And Prabhupada, to demonstrate that, he quotes Nectar of Devotion. Said, when one uses one's body, mind, and words and convictions always in the service of Krishna, He's imperceptibly liberated. He's considered already liberated. He will very soon become liberated. And we see in the 70s, joining ISKCON meant sell all your possessions or give all your possessions to the temple and you join. It was Harinam, going on Harinam or book distribution 14 hours a day and completely surrendered. And during that time, our movement expanded like anything. This period in the 70s called the Hare Krishna explosion. We got temples, all open temples all over the world, and it was very potent. So yes, if we understand and are dedicated to what Krishna asks us to do, and what does Krishna ask us to do? Mana, think of me. Bhavmat Bhakti, to become my devotee. Machai, worship me. Namaskaro, offer me respects. So
from October, we'll see what will come.
Engage in the
No, wait a
devotional
minute.
service. So yeah, we can follow in the footsteps of Arjuna. But the point there is the illusory energy. How can we get out of it? That first we cannot conquer this material energy. This material energy is greater than us. Krishna says, Duraja, not possible. Not possible. That, but we can get out of the influence of the material nature. That by performing pure devotional service. And we see Brahma prayed for this. He prayed for three things we see in these chapters. Three things. He prayed for empowerment, for empowerment, for introspection, to get the right thinking, get the right thing, introspection, and protection against Maya. What was the answer of the Supreme Lord? He said, everything you have prayed for is already granted. As long as you engage in pure devotional service, you will always be protected against Maya. So always engage in pure devotional service. Never listen to your mind. Then you are in the modes. Always engage your mind. If you don't engage your mind for 1 second and you listen to the mind, how do I feel today? You are lost. The mind is an instrument to be used, and that is an important aspect we learn from Lord Brahma also. He's our first acharya in the line of disciplic success. Does that help?
Very much. Thank you so much. I never ever thought of the difference between Arjuna and the Lord Brahma's situation, where in the case of Lord Brahma, he was using his mind to try to test Krishna. So that was a big difference. Thank you so much, Maharaj. So we go to His Grace Tribhuvannath Prabhu. Please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Tribhuvannath. Hare
Krishna, Maharaj. I respectful obeisances to you, Maharaj. Maharaj, I know you for long. You were our teacher in Bhakti Vedanta, and you teach very nicely, especially your way of adding values from the Acharya's commentary. Maharaj, the question that comes out to my mind is on, there are 12 Mahajans, and in the 12 Mahajans, 3 were, 3 was brought out, Shiva, Brahma, and Narada. And these 3 Mahajans that was extracted from these 12, and it's still from the text that they are not fully aware, they are not fully, cognizant of the Lord. And we are aware that Brahma is our grandfather, is the Sampradaya grandfather. If he's having this, if he's not fully aware of, the the personality of the Lord. So what is our faith, Maharaj?
Yes, that's a good question. But we do not need to be fully aware of all Krishna's opulences before we return to the spiritual world. Because someone asked Prabhupada, if we are 90% pure, will Krishna accept us? And Prabhupada said, yes. And then the devotee said, and 85%. And Prabhupada said, yes, but it would not go lower than 80%. So even if we have some impurities in the heart, still at the time of death, Krishna will accept us. But what does it mean? We have the example of the Bhagavatam, of the sages of Dandakaranya, and Lord Ramachandra visited them, and the sages, they were quite pure, and they wanted a relation with Lord Ramachandra in conjugal love. Lord Ramachandra said, no, in this incarnation, Eka Patni, one wife, Sita, but in 2 million years, when I come back as Krishna, then you can have that relationship with me. And then all these sages, they took birth in the womb of gopis, Nitya Siddha gopis, and were trained further up. And and they became completely pure and were finally eligible to dance with Krishna in the rasa dance. So it shows that even if we are not completely pure in heart, or we don't know Krishna sufficiently, well, sufficient we need to know, but completely we cannot know Krishna completely, because we are his part and parcels. So we are always limited in our knowledge, but from the moment we are established in the correct sambandha jnana, who is Krishna, who is we, and what is our relationship, and how to practice that relationship, abhideya, or our sadhana, then we are on the way back to God. That even if we are not completely pure, that we don't have everything 100% right, Krishna will still accept us. And we will be further trained up by Nitya Siddha devotees in our next life, and take birth in a universe where Krishna has his pastimes, and there we are further trained up towards this perfection. But one may wonder what with us. We are also in Krishna's pastimes, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Sankirtan movement. Lord Chaitanya is said, it's in Lochandas Thakur's biography of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Mangal. There, Lord Chaitanya said, in the future, if some will escape and go to far off foreign countries, then my Senapati Bhakta, my field commander, he will catch them, and he will spread the holy names all over the world. So Lord Chaitanya was speaking about Prabhupada. So he is his representative, and these are still Lord Chaitanya's pastimes going on. His Sankirtan, in the form of his Sankirtan movement, the spreading of the holy name of Krishna. And if we are engaged in that spreading the holy name of Krishna, then get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya, and can go back in this lifetime. That this is special mercy, and especially during this Kartik month now, it's good to remember that and engage in Prabhupada's mission, especially in this month. Does that help, Tribhuvanatha Prabhu?
Maharaj, I thank you. You've given your aspect of it, and I think it's relatable. And I also say, because in the course of your explanation, you mentioned the gopis, Krishna, because of the previous, which eventually led to the rasa dance. We see, and even the scriptures also mention that we should follow, the path of the gopis, the Vraj gopis. And the gopis themselves, we see that they are also experiencing the same, predicament the same line of what we are hearing today. They think that they know Krishna, but at one point they also discover that they never know more about Krishna. So I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Tribhuvanatha, and thank you so much, Maharaj, for the explanation. Bhakta Hassan, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, please accept my humble respect of excellencies. All gratitude to the Prabhupada and all glories to the Assembly devotees. Please, Maharaj, my question is, we are in this special month of Kartik, and we hear a lot of beautiful stories about Krishna pastimes, and he grew up and he have many wives, and if you hear the story of the pastimes of Krishna, it's so wonderful and so beautiful. My question is, we hear a lot of pastime, but we have never heard how Krishna and his pastime on this material world. And just keep coming to my mind, and I just want to know how Krishna and his pastime in this material world. This is my question. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, how Krishna ends his pastime in this material world, that answer you find in the 12th canto. That and for many this looks bewildering, but it should not. That there's a story that he went to the forest and he was hurt. His foot was hurt by the arrow of the hunter Jara, and then he left. And he left the so-called body behind. But at the same time, he went into the air with his 4 arms, Vishnu form, with all his paraphernalia and all his energies, and who assisted him, personal, they followed him. And it's in the Bhagavata, in the commentaries, that he went, before leaving the universe, he went first to Brahma to visit him, and then left. That, but this is interesting. It is to bewilder the impersonalist to say he left the so-called body, but you have to understand that Krishna is everything. He cannot leave a body. That's not possible. He has a spiritual body that which is eternal, and that's confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. So he left this world and went to the next universe to perform the same pastime. And all his pure devotees like Arjuna and the Pandavas, they went with him to perform the drama again. They are his eternal assistants traveling from universe to universe. That yes, that's in the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam, these pastimes of Krishna living. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
My pleasure.
Maharaj, if I may put the verse we discussed today back on the screen, so I may ask my last question.
Yeah.
The very beginning of the purport, which I have highlighted, Srila Prabhupada writes that we have many times mentioned the names of 12 selected authorities, Dwadasha Mahajan, of which Brahma, Narada, and the Lord Shiva had the list as the first, second, and third in order of merit of those who know something of the Supreme Lord. It's quite surprising to me that Brahma, Narada, who are Jiva Tattvas, would have higher merits about the knowledge of the Supreme Lord than the Lord Shiva, who is not a Jiva Tattva.
Mm-hmm.
If you may shed a little bit light on this, because I was, until today that we're reading this, I was thinking that Lord Shiva is Krishna in a different flavor. But here we're hearing that in terms of knowledge, by merit of knowledge of the absolute truth, Brahma is number 1, Narada is number 2, and Lord Shiva is number 3. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Lord Shiva is in spiritual state is superior. That is correct, because he's Shiva Tattva, where the Brahma is a Jiva. A Jiva can have got till 50 qualities of the Supreme Lord, 50 out of 64. Shiva has 55, is higher. So that's interesting. But I think here, why that may be mentioned is maybe another reason. Brahma is the first in the disciplic succession. Narada is the second. Shiva is not in the disciplic succession, has his own disciplic succession, the Rudra Sampradaya. But Shiva is in charge of the living entities in the mode of ignorance and destruction. That whereas Narada is always in love of Godhead. That Shiva is Samba is the best Vaishnava. That so yeah, I think it's more in terms of the role they play in the material world than in terms of their spiritual advancement. And that is what I think. That but there may be other reasons that I'm not seeing. But I was also thinking about Prabhupada in some lectures said all our acharyas who are pure devotees in the line of disciplic succession are also considered Mahajans. That, of course, our Mahajans is Srila Prabhupada. That those who follow in the footsteps of the Mahajans will also become Mahajans. But that's not easy to follow in the footsteps of a Mahajan. Even the purpose of devotional service Srila Prabhupada gave us, that it means we have to engage 24 hours a day. We have to have a morning program, an evening program every day. Every day hear the Bhagavatam and so on. That even many devotees are struggling with it. And we need really to emphasize that they have to follow morning and evening program, even when one is Ishayastra, and that at home, morning and evening program, otherwise there's no spiritual life. That's it's our duty of finally to also follow in the footsteps of these mountains. That's a small commentary I could give for what it is worth.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much. So, dear devotees, His Grace Shrivas, Vanachari, do you have something to share, because we're trying to wrap up things?
We thank Maharaj for his beautiful class. Thank you for coming on the Africa platform to give us the association, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Yeah, praying for your blessings. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right, so dear devotees, I have a few things to say about Maharaj. To some of us who may not know, Maharaj, his physical body was given to him in Belgium. So he was born in Belgium, and that is where he met devotees. And I'm trying to be brief. So he saw the devotees, he became interested, he joined the movement, and he became a disciple of His Holiness Bhaktacharya Swami Maharaj. He took initiation, second initiation, and then took sannyas initiation from him as well. Maharaj has been very prolific preacher. Like Tribhuvannath Prabhu was sharing, he is a teacher of the different schools within ISKCON, like Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, and also in connection with the VIH education. Maharaj himself is in fact, he moved from Belgium to Leicester, UK, for some time, where he established Bhakti Vaibhava course. And as we speak today, Maharaj still offers online courses of the Bhakti Vaibhava. And so we are very grateful to have Maharaj's association with us today. He is very, very good in legal issues as well. So Maharaj, probably if in the future we may need your assistance, we will call on you, because nobody wants to have problems, but problems abound everywhere in this material world. We hope we don't encounter any legal issues, but if we do, we may call on you. So this is what I wanted to share with you all. And Maharaj, just like His Grace Srivas Vanachari said, we are very grateful and thankful to have your association, your love, and your wisdom. And we hope to have your association more and more in the near future. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
So on this note, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to Maharaj's presence here. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to
His Holiness Prabhupada Maharaj Ki Jai.
His Grace, Shiva Vanachari.